There's a moment that comes to every person who's ever accomplished something significant. It's not the moment of victory. It's not when they're holding the trophy or cashing the check or shaking hands with someone important. It's the moment at 3 in the morning when their body is screaming at them to quit, when every rational thought in their mind is telling them they're a fool, when nobody's watching and nobody would even know if they just stopped. That's the moment. That's where unbreakable people are actually made. Rebecca knew that moment well. She was a nurse working the night shift at a hospital that was drowning, not in water, but in patients, in emergencies, in impossible decisions that had to be made every single hour. While most people were sleeping peacefully in their beds, Rebecca was on her feet for 12, sometimes 16 hours straight, moving from one crisis to another. Her back ached constantly. Her feet felt like they were walking on broken glass. She'd go days where she couldn't remember if she'd eaten anything besides stale coffee and whatever she could grab from the vending machine. But here's what most people don't understand about hard work. It's not really about the work itself. When Rebecca was in her 7th hour of a double shift, dealing with her 3rd emergency of the night, something was happening inside her that had nothing to do with medicine. Her mind was being rewired, her spirit was being forged. Every time she wanted to break down and cry from exhaustion but didn't, every time she wanted to snap at someone but chose patience instead, every time her body begged her to sit down, but she kept moving because someone needed her, she was building something that most people never develop. She was building the capacity to endure. You see, hard work doesn't just produce results in the external world. The real transformation happens internally. When you push yourself beyond what's comfortable, beyond what's easy, beyond what most people are willing to do, you're not just building a business or a career or a skill, you're building yourself. You're constructing a version of you that can handle things the old version couldn't even imagine. Rebecca didn't start out unbreakable. Nobody does. When she first began those night shifts, she would cry in her car before driving home. She questioned whether she could keep going. She wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. But she kept showing up. And every single time she showed up when she didn't feel like it, when every part of her wanted to quit, she was making a deposit into an account that most people don't even know exists. An account of inner strength that you can only fill through difficulty, through persistence, through refusing to break when breaking would be easier. The fascinating thing is this: the difficulty is the point. It's not something to avoid or minimize or get around. The difficulty is the mechanism through which you become someone different. There's a man named Martin who understood this better than most, though it took him years to figure it out. Martin wanted to build furniture. Beautiful, handcrafted furniture that would last generations. He had this romantic vision of himself as a master craftsman, creating pieces that people would treasure. But Martin's first 100 pieces were garbage. Complete, absolute garbage. Chairs that wobbled, tables with uneven legs, joints that came apart, finishes that looked like they'd been applied by someone wearing oven mitts. He'd spend hours, sometimes days, on a single piece, pouring everything he had into it, only to step back and see something that belonged in a dumpster, not a living room. Most people would have quit. Most people would have decided they didn't have the talent, that this wasn't for them, that maybe they should find something easier. Martin kept going. Not because he was stubborn, though he was. Not because he was foolish, though some people thought so. He kept going because somewhere deep inside, he understood something profound. Every failure was teaching him something that success never could. When a joint came apart, he learned exactly how much pressure that type of wood could handle. When a finish came out wrong, he learned the precise timing and technique required. When a leg wobbled, he learned about balance and measurement in a way that reading a book never could have taught him. His hands were covered in cuts and calluses. His workshop was full of expensive mistakes. His bank account was draining. But something else was happening. With every failed piece, with every hour of frustration, with every moment he wanted to throw his tools across the room but didn't, Martin was becoming someone different. The work wasn't just teaching him carpentry. It was building his character. It was creating patience where there had been impatience. It was forging precision where there had been carelessness. It was constructing confidence where there had been doubt. By the time Martin finally created his first truly beautiful piece, something he could be genuinely proud of, he wasn't the same person who had started. The work had transformed him. And here's the critical insight. If someone had simply given him the skill, if he could have downloaded the ability into his brain without the struggle, he would have been a skilled carpenter but not an unbreakable one. The struggle wasn't an unfortunate obstacle on the path to mastery. The struggle was the path itself. This is what separates people who achieve extraordinary things from everyone else. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not connections or opportunities or being in the right place at the right time. Those things can help, certainly, but they're not the foundation. The foundation is the willingness to do hard things consistently when nobody's applauding, when the results aren't showing up yet, when your efforts seem invisible or pointless or wasted. Think about what hard work actually does to you physically and mentally. When you lift heavy weights, your muscles don't grow during the workout. They grow afterward, during recovery, as your body repairs the damage and makes itself stronger to handle that stress next time. Your mind works the same way. When you push through difficulty, when you force yourself to keep going when quitting would be easier, you're creating tiny tears in your psychological muscles. And as those heal, you become mentally stronger, more resilient, more capable. Rebecca eventually became the director of that hospital, not because she was the smartest nurse or the most educated or the one with the best connections. She got there because years of impossible nights had built something inside her that couldn't be taught in any classroom. When the hospital board was looking for someone who could handle pressure, who wouldn't break under stress, who could make tough decisions when everything was falling apart, they didn't need to look far. Rebecca had already proven it, night after night, crisis after crisis, for years when nobody important was watching. Martin's furniture now sits in homes across the country. People pay thousands for pieces that carry his mark. But if you asked him what he's most proud of, he wouldn't talk about the furniture. He'd talk about what he became in the process of learning to make it. He'd tell you about the version of himself that can now face any challenge without flinching, because he's already been through the fire. He'd explain that the furniture was just the vehicle. The real product was him. This is the secret that successful people know but rarely articulate. Hard work is the most reliable tool for personal transformation that exists. You want to become more disciplined? Do hard things that require discipline. You want to become more patient? Engage in work that demands patience. You want to become confident? Master something difficult. There's no shortcut. There's no app for it. There's no pill or program or weekend seminar that can replace the fundamental alchemy of sustained difficult effort. There was a woman named Vanessa who learned this in a basement. She was a programmer working for a startup that nobody had heard of, building software that nobody seemed to care about. While her friends from college were getting promotions and recognition at established companies, Vanessa was writing code in a cramped space with fluorescent lights that hummed constantly and furniture that looked like it had been salvaged from a garage sale. She worked 80-hour weeks. Not because anyone forced her to, not because she was getting paid extra. She worked those hours because the problem she was trying to solve consumed her. Most weeks, nothing worked. Code that should have functioned produced errors she couldn't explain. Features that seemed simple took weeks to implement. She'd have breakthrough moments at 2 in the morning, only to discover the next day that her solution created 3 new problems. There were months where she questioned everything, where she wondered if she was wasting her life on something that would never matter, where the smart move seemed to be cutting her losses and finding something easier, something with a clearer path and more immediate rewards. But Vanessa had discovered something about herself through all those long hours in that basement. She discovered that she could endure more than she thought possible, that her capacity wasn't fixed, that every time she pushed past the point where she wanted to quit, she expanded what she was capable of. The work was hard, often unrewarded, frequently invisible, but it was building her into someone formidable. 3 years into the startup, when most people would have moved on, Vanessa's team finally created something that worked, really worked. The software they'd been struggling to build suddenly solved problems that major companies were desperate to fix. Within 6 months, they had clients around the world. Within a year, they were industry leaders. Vanessa went from unknown programmer to someone fielding job offers she couldn't have imagined years earlier. But here's what matters. By the time success arrived, Vanessa was ready for it. The years of obscure, difficult work hadn't just produced good software. They'd produced someone who could handle pressure, who didn't need constant validation, who could see projects through when everyone else lost faith. When bigger opportunities came with bigger challenges, she didn't crumble. She'd already been forged in a much harder fire. This is the pattern you see again and again in every field, every industry, every arena of human achievement. The people who become unbreakable aren't born that way. They're not genetically different. They don't possess some mystical quality that you lack. What they possess is a history of doing hard things when it wasn't fun, when it wasn't paying off yet, when nobody was watching or caring or encouraging them, Your character isn't formed during the easy times. It's not built when things are going well and everyone's celebrating your success. Your character is formed at 3 in the morning when you're exhausted but keep going anyway. It's formed when you fail for the 100th time but try again. It's formed when you're doing work that nobody sees, that nobody appreciates, that doesn't seem to matter, but you do it with excellence anyway because that's who you've decided to be. And here's the truth that changes everything once you understand it. Every moment of difficulty is an opportunity. Every challenge is a chance to become stronger. Every obstacle is an invitation to build capacity you don't currently have. Most people see hard work as a burden to be avoided or minimized. Unbreakable people see it differently. They see it as the mechanism through which they become extraordinary. When Rebecca looks back at those brutal night shifts, she doesn't remember them with resentment. She remembers them with gratitude. Those shifts built her. When Martin looks at his workshop filled with expensive failures, he doesn't see waste. He sees his education. When Vanessa thinks about those years in the basement writing code that nobody cared about, she doesn't feel like she lost time. She knows she was investing in herself. The question isn't whether you'll face hard work in your life. You will. The question is whether you'll recognize it for what it really is, your opportunity to become unbreakable. Every difficult task in front of you, every challenge that seems overwhelming, every moment when quitting looks attractive, that's your moment. That's where the transformation happens. Not later, when things get easier. Right there, in the middle of the difficulty. So, when you're facing something hard, when you're exhausted and frustrated and wondering if it's worth it, remember this. You're not just completing a task. You're not just building a career or a business or a skill. You're building yourself. You're constructing the version of you that can handle whatever comes next. You're becoming unbreakable, one difficult moment at a time. And that person you're becoming through hard work, that person is worth every ounce of effort, every drop of sweat, every moment of doubt you push through. Because that person can handle anything. That person doesn't break. That person is what you came here to become.